Hi guys, welcome back. Welcome to part 2 of my labor and delivery postpartum story for my first baby. And I'm just gonna pick up where we left off. So here you go. So we made it to our recovery room and it was fine. I mean, I think it was pretty typical from that point forward until that evening. So I should say my baby was born at noon. So timeline wise, 2 a.m. my water breaks, 2:30ish we get to the hospital, around 7 is when I was induced and she was born at 12:05. So really pretty quick because it was like 10 hours from start to finish with this whole thing. And 5 of those hours I was not even contracting, I was just in labor, or my water was just breaking. So it was really fast. So anyway, it's early afternoon now, we're in our recovery room, everything's fine, we had a couple visitors. That evening they were doing some of her newborn checks, like, you know, probably just checking her vitals. But one of the ones they do is they have a little scanner and it checks their bilirubin levels, which if you have heard the term jaundice, that is where that comes in. We all are born with this enzyme bilirubin in our bellies, and some babies have an easier time processing it than others. I think certain factors, probably like being younger, like slightly early, she was 3 weeks early, probably would affect it a little bit. I don't know, I am no doctor. Just from my experience, they were kind of saying because she was a little bit early, she might have a harder time processing all this bilirubin. But anyway, her jaundice levels came back pretty high. So the solution at that point was to just, they had a little blue light blanket. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a little plastic blanket with blue lights, and they said you can snuggle her and just keep that on her skin. So she was stripped down to her little diaper, and I just held her with that for a while, and they would come back and check her bilirubin levels periodically. They were not improving. They just were getting worse and worse. And then they brought in a whole light bank thing. It's like, it looks like, it's like a crib, and it looks like a baby tanning bed basically. So they put her under there. I guess the effects from that are a little bit stronger than the blanket. They put little baby sunglasses on them, and it's so sad. And you can't really hold them while they're in there, and they need to be, they need to just be down in their diaper because their skin needs the exposure to the blue light. And I don't know the science behind why the blue light works, but that's the best way that they can think of ridding this bilirubin from their little tiny bodies. And I was still trying to nurse. They said she's just not getting enough. So they wanted to give her a bottle. I appreciate the help. She did have a bottle, several bottles, to try to, you know, fill up her belly and kickstart her system and try to get her liver working so that bilirubin would exit her system. And once the bottle was introduced, breastfeeding became a lot harder for me. She was no longer interested. It's like she would latch and then she'd fall asleep. So it was like this vicious cycle, because being jaundice makes you really tired. So she was lethargic from being jaundice, so she didn't want to eat because she was tired. But not eating was making her bilirubin levels rise, and she needed the food in order to kick the bilirubin from her system. And it was just this cycle of nothing was working. And I was so stressed out. I was so sleep deprived. I was stressed out that her little baby sunglasses would fall over her tiny nose because she was so little. The smallest size they had were still huge for her. So I didn't sleep, and I was stressed out because I was trying to breastfeed, and my milk had eventually come in, and I was trying to pump, but she would latch and then she just wouldn't suck. And it was this, like, nobody prepares you for things like that. She eventually was discharged, and then we had to go back in the morning and to do her, they call it a color check, but again, it's to check her bilirubin levels. So we did that. We went home, I think, like, probably 3 days after she was born. And then we came back the next morning to do her color check, and her levels kept going up. So we had to be readmitted into the hospital, and that was really scary to me because I thought at that point we would have had it all under control. We didn't. So then we stayed a whole nother night in the hospital, They sent us home again. Still having trouble with breastfeeding at this point. I'm having to supplement a ton with bottles. Luckily I was pumping, so most of what she got was breast milk, but it was in a bottle, and I think that was just perpetuating her not wanting to nurse because she was used to the ease of the bottle at that point. But I had to get food in her little system there. So then we were discharged again, and then we had to go do her color check again the next morning, and it was the same thing. Her bilirubin levels were still way higher than they should have been at that point. And at this point, she's like 5 days old. I have not slept all week at this point. Really, I like a couple hours I probably got in there, but that's it. I was so stressed out. I was not eating well. It was like the worst. It's like the worst week of my life. My mental health was so shot. Again, remember, I'm going through a divorce at this time too. It was just not good. So that last time we were in the hospital, so the third time we were admitted, I mean, it was the same thing. They gave her a bank of lights to lay under. We were just trying to feed her. At this point, they're weighing her diapers to see how much is actually coming out. They're talking about blood transfusion, so I was so freaked out. Eventually, they determined that they determined that her bilirubin levels were low enough that we were able to go home. And that time we went home, we came back the next morning for her color check, and she was still okay and in a safe zone with her jaundice. So we got to stay home. We were at that hospital for an entire week trying to deal with that. And that is something I did not anticipate at all. It was really scary. And like I said, that whole week I really didn't sleep at all. But then I got to bring my baby home, and we started to get in a routine and figure out what worked best for us. Our breastfeeding journey unfortunately did not last very long, because at that point I think she honestly was just so used to the bottle that she had no desire to nurse, and I had to get food in her body, and the best way to do that was a bottle. So if you're in that position and you know, you feel guilty because you want to breastfeed, but you got to get food in your baby, I really think that fed is always best. You'll have people who will criticize you about not breastfeeding. People think you're lazy, you're taking the easy way out. Listen, you got to get food in your baby's belly. And if that looks like giving them a bottle, whether it's with pumped milk or formula or whatever you got to do, that is okay. And I'm so grateful that I had access to both my pumped breast milk. My sister actually had a bunch of pumped breast milk that we were able to use as well. And then formula. I know I gave breastfeeding a solid shot. I tried it for as long as I possibly could mentally before I had to call it quits, because it was not benefiting my mental health. It was not benefiting my baby. And it was time to just make peace with the fact that it was not going to be for me. Feed your baby, however that looks. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope that was interesting, maybe informative. I don't know. If you liked it, please go ahead and give it the video a like, and you can subscribe. And I've been posting content weekly. However, as we have our baby due anytime, I can't promise that I'm going to be posting quite as frequently, but I'm going to try my very best. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more content like this, again, please subscribe so you can watch more of my videos. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. Lying in bed, minding my own business, and then all of a sudden, my water broke. I was so distracted with other things, actually giving birth just wasn't even on my radar. I figured that'd be the least of my problems at that point. I mean, these contractions were getting pretty rough, and I remember just feeling like they can't get worse, but they continued to get worse. Her dad was holding her, and I walked over to the shower, and I was losing a lot of blood, but I thought I'll be fine. And then I got in the shower, and I got super lightheaded, and I just felt like I'm gonna pass out.